I never imagined that my 20th wedding anniversary would be the day I found myself sitting on a curb in the pouring rain with nothing but the clothes on my back. But there I was, watching my husband and his mother throw my belongings out the second-story window like I was trash they couldn't wait to be rid of. 20 years, Robert! I screamed up at him, my voice breaking. 20 years I gave you! My mother-in-law appeared at the window, her face twisted with satisfaction. You should have left when you still had your looks, Claire. Now you're just a dried-up old woman taking up space. I was 45 years old. 45. And apparently, that was too old for my husband of 2 decades. Robert leaned out next to his mother. Jenny's moving in tomorrow, he said flatly, referring to his 28-year-old secretary. The locks are already changed. Don't bother coming back. The rain soaked through my coat as I sat there on the sidewalk of our brownstone in Boston's Back Bay, watching my life literally fall apart around me. A jewelry box, a photo album, my grandmother's quilt, all landing in puddles on the street. I had no family. My parents had died years ago. No siblings, no children, because Robert had always said he wasn't ready, and then it was too late. I had poured everything into being the perfect wife, the perfect daughter-in-law, and this was my reward. That's when the black Lincoln Town car pulled up. I didn't even look up at first. I was too busy trying to gather my soaked belongings, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip anything. Then I heard a car door close and the sound of expensive shoes on wet pavement. Mrs. Claire Montgomery? I looked up to see a man in his 60s, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit, holding a large black umbrella. He had kind eyes, the kind that had seen a lot but still held compassion. Who's asking? I managed, my voice hoarse from crying. My name is Arthur Pemberton. I'm an attorney. I've been looking for you for quite some time. He extended the umbrella over me. Mrs. Montgomery. I represent the estate of Catherine Elizabeth Hartwell. She passed away 6 months ago, and I believe you are her sole heir. I stared at him. I don't know anyone by that name. No, you wouldn't, he said gently. But she knew you. She knew you very well. He glanced up at the window where Robert and his mother were watching with confusion. This isn't the place for this conversation. Please, let me take you somewhere warm and dry. Then I'll explain everything. I looked at my belongings scattered on the street, at my husband's face in the window, and at this stranger offering me an umbrella in the middle of the worst day of my life. What did I have to lose? Okay, I whispered. Arthur helped me into the car, and his driver immediately turned on the heat. As we pulled away from the only home I'd known for 20 years, I watched Robert and his mother's confused faces disappear in the rearview mirror. Where are we going? I asked. To your sister's apartment, Arthur said. Well, your late sister's apartment. It's yours now. I don't have a sister. I'm an only child. Arthur pulled a folder from his briefcase. Mrs. Montgomery. What I'm about to tell you may come as a shock. Catherine Elizabeth Hartwell was your twin sister. I actually laughed. It was a harsh, broken sound. That's impossible. You were born at Boston General Hospital on the 15th of March, 1955. Your birth mother was a 16-year-old girl named Patricia Monroe. She gave birth to twins. You were adopted by the Montgomerys 3 days later. Your sister was adopted by the Hartwells 2 weeks after that. The folder contained documents, birth certificates, adoption papers. My hands trembled as I looked at them. 2 baby girls, baby A, Claire, baby B, Catherine. Same birth date, same birth mother. Why didn't anyone tell me? Closed adoption. Different families. It wasn't uncommon back then for twins to be separated. Your sister only discovered the truth when she was 35. After both sets of adoptive parents had passed away, she hired investigators and found you. But, he paused, she decided not to approach you. Why not? She watched you from afar for years, Mrs. Montgomery. She saw that you seemed happy with your husband, your life. She was afraid that revealing herself would disrupt that happiness. Catherine was very successful in business but quite alone. She never married. She channeled everything into building Hartwell Industries. She wanted you to have the family she never did. The car pulled up to a building on Commonwealth Avenue. Not just any building. One of those historic brownstones that had been converted into luxury condominiums, the kind with a doorman and marble lobbies. This is where she lived? This is where she lived. And worked. She ran her company from the penthouse. Arthur handed me a key. "It's all yours now. The apartment, the company, everything." I stood in the lobby, dripping rainwater onto polished floors, holding a key to a life I never knew existed. The doorman nodded to Arthur like he knew him. "Good evening, Mr. Pemberton. Welcome home, Miss Hartwell." "She's Miss Montgomery," Arthur corrected gently. "Catherine's sister." The doorman's eyes widened. "I see the resemblance. My condolences for your loss, ma'am. Miss Catherine was a wonderful person." The elevator took us to the top floor. When Arthur opened the door, I stepped into another world. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Charles River, original artwork on the walls, furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum, and everywhere, in silver frames, photographs. I walked closer to the photos. They were of me and Robert at our wedding, me at a charity event I'd helped organize, me shopping in the North End, me walking in the public garden. "She attended every event you helped organize," Arthur said quietly. "She donated anonymously to every cause you supported. She was always there, Mrs. Montgomery. You just never knew it." I picked up one photo. It was me laughing at something, caught in a candid moment I didn't remember. Someone had loved me enough to capture that moment. Someone I'd never even known existed. How did she die? Cancer. She fought it for 2 years. In the end, she made me promise to find you and make sure you received everything, she said. He consulted a letter. She said, "My sister deserves to know she was loved, even if I never had the courage to tell her myself." I sat down hard on a velvet sofa and cried. Not the desperate, humiliated tears I'd cried on the street. These were different. Grief for a sister I'd never known, rage at a universe that had kept us apart, and something else, something that felt almost like relief. "There's more," Arthur said. "Hartwell Industries is worth approximately $300 million. Catherine owned it outright. She has left it all to you, along with this apartment, her vacation home in Newport, and various investments and accounts. You are, as of today, an extremely wealthy woman." I looked down at my rain-soaked clothes, my ruined shoes. Just this morning, I'd been making my husband's favorite breakfast, trying to make our anniversary special. Now I was sitting in a penthouse apartment, worth more money than I'd ever dreamed of, grieving a sister I'd never met. What is Hartwell Industries? Medical technology. Catherine developed several patents for surgical equipment that are now used in hospitals worldwide. She was a brilliant engineer and businesswoman. Over the next few days, Arthur walked me through everything. Catherine had left detailed instructions. She'd known she was dying, and she'd prepared meticulously. There were letters for me, dozens of them, explaining her life, her choices, her regrets. In one letter she wrote, "Claire, I watched you choose love over ambition, family over career, and I admired you for it. I built an empire because I had nothing else, but you built a life. Even if it didn't turn out the way you hoped, you had the courage to try. I never did. I was too afraid. Please don't make my mistakes. Please don't let fear keep you from living fully now." I spent a week in that apartment, reading my sister's letters, learning about the company, and avoiding all calls from Robert. Arthur had arranged for my belongings to be retrieved and delivered. Among them, I found my phone had 47 missed calls from my husband and his mother. Finally, I listened to one voicemail from Robert. "Claire, we need to talk. Jenny and I, it's not working out. I made a mistake. My mother agrees. We want you to come home. Let's forget this whole thing happened." I deleted it. Arthur introduced me to Catherine's executive team at Hartwell Industries. I learned that my sister had built not just a company, but a culture. She'd been known for her integrity, her generosity to employees, and her insistence that profit should never come at the expense of people. "Your sister used to say that medical technology should save lives, not just make money," her CFO told me. "She kept prices fair even when competitors gouged. She funded scholarships for engineering students. She was one of the good ones." At the first board meeting I attended, I sat in Catherine's chair and looked around the table at these strangers who had known my sister better than I ever would. "I won't pretend to be Catherine," I told them. "I don't have her education or her experience, but I learned from the best teacher I ever had, even though I never met her. I read her letters, I understand her vision. And if you'll help me, I'd like to honor that vision by continuing her work. The vote to confirm me as CEO was unanimous. 3 months later, I was at my desk in the penthouse office when my assistant buzzed me. "Miss Montgomery, there are visitors downstairs. Your husband and his mother. They don't have an appointment." I looked out the window at the city below. Boston looked different from up here. Bigger, full of possibility. Send them up. When Robert and his mother walked into the office, their faces showed shock. They'd obviously done their research and knew where to find me, but seeing me here, in Catherine's world now, my world was clearly more than they'd expected. Robert looked older. Tired. His mother looked the same, just angrier. "Claire," Robert started, "we need to talk about the house, about our assets. My lawyer says that." "Your lawyer can speak to my lawyer," I said calmly. "Mr. Pemberton will handle the divorce proceedings. You'll find him more than fair." "Fair?" His mother spat. "You're sitting in this fancy office, living in luxury, and you think you can just abandon my son?" I stood up. I was wearing one of Catherine's suits that I'd had tailored. I looked like I belonged here now. Because I did. I didn't abandon Robert. He threw me out on the street in the rain like garbage. He chose his secretary over his wife. You told me I was too old, too ugly, too useless. So I left. And then I discovered something incredible. I paused. I discovered that I had value all along. I just couldn't see it because I was too busy trying to be enough for people who would never think I was enough. "The house is in my name," Robert said desperately. "My name." "Actually," Arthur said, entering the office with perfect timing, "the house is in both names. Mrs. Montgomery is entitled to half its value. However, she's willing to sign it over to you entirely, Robert, in exchange for a clean, simple divorce. No alimony requested, despite being entitled to it." Robert's mother's eyes narrowed. "Why would she do that?" I smiled. It felt good. "Because I don't need it. I don't need anything from you. I have more than enough. And honestly," I looked at Robert, "I want nothing that would tie me to you anymore." "You can't do this," his mother said. "Robert, tell her." But Robert was staring at me with something I'd never seen before. Regret, maybe even respect. "I was a fool, wasn't I?" he said quietly. "Yes," I said simply. "You were. And Jenny? She left 2 weeks after she moved in. She wanted the successful businessman she thought I was, not the reality. Turns out I'm not as charming when I'm not sneaking around. I'm sorry, Claire. I really am." I believed him. I could see it in his eyes. But it didn't matter anymore. "I accept your apology, Robert. I even forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. I deserve to move forward without carrying around anger and resentment." I gestured to the door. "But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It just means I'm choosing not to let what you did define the rest of my life." His mother made a disgusted sound. "Come on, Robert. Let's go. She's not worth this." But Robert didn't move immediately. "For what it's worth, I hope you're happy here. You deserve to be happy." After they left, Arthur sat down across from me. "That was remarkably gracious of you." Catherine wrote in one of her letters that she spent her whole life building walls to protect herself from being hurt. She was never betrayed because she never let anyone close enough to betray her. And she died alone, full of regrets. I looked at the photo on my desk, the one of me laughing. I refused to do the same. I was hurt, yes. Betrayed, absolutely. But I won't let that make me bitter. I won't let that steal my ability to trust or love or hope. Your sister would be proud of you. I hope so. I'm trying to live in a way that honors both of us, her strength and my heart. 6 months later, Hartwell Industries announced a new initiative, a foundation providing free medical equipment to underserved communities worldwide. We named it the Catherine Claire Foundation, after both sisters. At the launch event, I stood at a podium in front of investors, employees, and press. I wore a silver locket that Catherine had left me, containing a photo of 2 baby girls. My sister Catherine built this company on the principle that saving lives should be accessible to everyone, not just those who can afford it, I began. I never had the privilege of knowing her in life, but I know her through her work, her words, and her generosity. She gave me everything. Now I want to use that gift to give back. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, At the reception, I saw Robert standing near the back of the room. He'd been invited as my former spouse, a courtesy I'd extended. He approached hesitantly. "That was a beautiful speech," he said. "Thank you. I saw the pictures in the program. You and Catherine, you looked so much alike." "We were identical," I said, "just separated by circumstances we couldn't control." "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd known about her earlier? If you'd had a different life?" I thought about it. Sometimes. But then I think about how every experience, even the painful ones, brought me to where I am now. If Catherine had contacted me when I was 25 and happy in my marriage, would I have appreciated this gift? Or would I have been too comfortable to take the risk of stepping into her world? "You've changed," he said. It wasn't an accusation, just an observation. "I've grown," I corrected. "There's a difference. I'm still me, Robert. I'm just me, without the fear of not being enough. I'm me, without trying to shrink myself to fit someone else's expectations." He nodded slowly. "I really did love you, you know. I got scared. Of getting older. Of missing out. Of being ordinary. I know. And I forgive you for that. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. You made your choice, and I've made mine. I hope you find what you're looking for." As he walked away, I felt the weight of the past finally lift from my shoulders. I'd spent so many years defining myself by my relationship to others, wife, daughter-in-law, but now I was simply Claire. Sister, CEO, woman, whole. Arthur appeared at my elbow. "How are you holding up?" "Better than I expected," I admitted. I used to think that being alone meant being lonely. But I'm not alone. I have Catherine's team, who've become my team. I have purpose. I have work that matters. And I have the memory of a sister who loved me enough to give me all of this. She'd be very proud of you, Claire. The way you've stepped into this role, the way you've honored her legacy while making it your own, it's extraordinary. I looked around the room at all these people working to make the world a little better, a little healthier, a little more equitable. You know what the funny thing is? When Robert threw me out that night, I thought my life was over. I thought I'd lost everything. But really, I'd just lost the things that were holding me back. The real gift Catherine gave me wasn't the money or the company. It was the chance to discover who I could be when I stopped trying to be what everyone else wanted me to be. Later that evening, alone in the penthouse, I poured myself a glass of wine and stood at the windows overlooking the city. Somewhere out there, Robert was in his house with his regrets. His mother was probably complaining to anyone who would listen. Jenny was probably moving on to her next target. And I was here, standing in a life I'd never imagined, living a purpose I'd never known I was meant for. I raised my glass to the window, to the city, to the sister I'd never known but who'd known me so well. "Thank you, Catherine," I whispered, "for seeing me when I couldn't see myself, for believing I deserved more, for giving me not just your legacy, but my freedom." The city lights twinkled back at me like a million tiny affirmations. I was 46 years old, and finally, for the first time in my life, I was free to be exactly who I was meant to be. Not someone's wife, not someone's daughter-in-law, not even just someone's sister, just me, and that was more than enough.